So here we are again, and welcome to Ubuntu Rising. And from last episode, we continue with the effects. We just touched about the effects of colonization, and a part of it, of course, includes the slave trade, the colonization itself, what it did to us and our people. And to continue this discussion is my friend here, Albina and Hipp. And my name is Patrick Ngugi, and we dwell into it. Whenever a civilization is, if I may use the word, conquered by another, I'm sure even if that conqueror leave, I'm sure they normally leave scars of the suffering that the conquered community suffered. And maybe you want to speak to some of them. And earlier on, when we were discussing this before we came to recording, you mentioned about the school fires are indirectly connected to that. How so?
Well, it's a manifestation. That's the best I can say. It's a manifestation. So I will borrow from John Lederach. Yeah? He has John Lederach's theory on conflict transformation.
Yes.
Where he views social conflict not as a problem to be eliminated, but as a natural, life-giving opportunity where disruptive events or crises create tears in the fabric of human relationship, which then enable and offer catalysm of change. So these fires you are seeing are what we call like the tears, events, disruptive from where like the Kenyan society was. There were a lot of, we call it negative peace. So there were a lot of little mamas going on, dissatisfactions, a lot of issues going on. And so once in a while, there is that rupture of the, of the veil where then an event pops up and it ruptures. And so everyone then, the society goes into almost like, what is this? Why has it happened? Why should it be happening? But it doesn't mean then that you just label it as that, but also it's also time for you to investigate as to why is it occurring?
Okay.
Why so prevalent? What is it that has triggered this youth to thinking this is the way to express their disquiet? Yeah, because if you look at it, there's that the rhetoric there is they were expressing some disquiet or some comfortability, what they considered is not what they wanted. So not delving into it. So looking at it through that lens is when you start asking, okay, when did the sun start beating us? Because these are children who have now expressed some disquiet. Why? That means there's something that is underlying undertones going on underneath, either in homes or, but basically generally in society, for them to all come together and agree, so it's not just one school, it was like it became something. It became like a bushfire, yeah. So why is this disquiet? What is happening within our society as Kenya? Right? Now, when we can then, and this is where now interdisciplinary comes in, you can then look at it this way. You can take the historical, you can take the psychological, you can take the sociological. All these are factors that come together and create this tinder, create this tinder where just a small spark. But then what is it that needs to be done for the society, within the society? What transformation can the society do to then address this, not just the fires, there is something underneath. So this is where now the questions start coming of childhood, education.
Would we say this is also like connected, not really connected, but the same thing as what we have seen as the GenZ uprising? and not just in Kenya, but in many countries, the Gen Zs are coming up to express anger or frustration in the same. Would this be the
Yes.
same kind of thing? Now the same Gen Z is doing it in school.
Of course, now remember, if the Gen Zs, let's say, were the ones who are out of school, so they're in the universities and
Oh yeah,
colleges and
oh yeah.
doing the work, so they're expressing themselves on the street.
Mm-hmm.
And also, we talk of Gen Zs, probably could also talk about being called youth, huh? And youth is classified until 35,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
probably even their parents
Mm-hmm. Oh
are
yeah.
in the streets expressing what? What is this disquiet?
Yeah.
What
I
is this
remember
disquiet?
if I may connect that to what an experience or something I observed. Our parents, your parents, my parents, or this age group parents were
Mm,
quite harsh on their children.
mhm,
Discipline. We call it
mhm.
discipline. Their
Yes.
parents, our grandparents, were even harsher. Yeah. And I tended to think it was what's the word? I'm trying to look the word. It's because they themselves were suffering under colonialism, under the Mzungu who was kind of beating them up or put them in chains, and then they were coming to their homes to what is the word? There's a word I'm trying to see, but I'll get it. And so that
Mhm,
because this man, a woman who had been brutalized by the masters, can only express that anger to his children by beating them up in the name of discipline. And because you are that generation was really beaten up by their parents, they take it over to their children. But it reached a point of where we say, no, I will not treat my kids will not grow the same way as we grew. And therefore we don't quote unquote discipline as much as we did before.
mhm.
But the anger, the stress is still within us.
This is
Any
where
parting
then
comments on that?
I would I would then ask,
The word
as
I was
much as
looking for is projection.
okay,
Project
so
our
as much as
anger elsewhere.
yes, but as much as we are trying to create this safety environment, has the violence left? The violence that was imposed on our great-grandfathers
Mm,
or our great-great-grandfathers,
mm,
then our grandfathers,
mm,
then our fathers,
mm,
who then put their violence on us.
mm,
As much as we want to absorb all this,
mm.
has that violence left, changed? Is it still there? Has it stopped?
Maybe we can say it's been suppressed.
Exactly. So this is what we call now, this is now why I kind of went to John Lederach, where then we look at it as a rupture. Like I said, it is the rupture, the disruptive events.
Yeah.
So which is disrupting, or it's a break between the natural flow of daily human relationships or
Yes.
daily so what was it? So what is this the underlying? And remember, in the first the first program we did, I asked the question, when did the sun start beating us?
Mm,
You understand? Because
yes.
again, violence is violence.
Mm,
And it is, well, of course, it can also take different forms. There's the
mm,
physical, there's the mental, and there's the psychological,
mm, mm,
right? So physical is there, it will continue. You can see it, it's
mm,
overt. There
mm,
it is, you can see it. You can feel it, it is in your body, it is
mm,
on you,
mm,
or manifests itself either in related illnesses or something.
mm,
Then there's the mental,
mm.
where the physical is not there,
Yes.
but it's still being played. So it's now, it has taken a new form.
Mm.
It is now where you, as the victim, you have to look at it, sit down and analyze and say, why am I not feeling this is good?
Mm.
So then you go into the thinking. That doesn't mean that the violence has stopped.
No. It's within the system.
It's still throbbing the way it is throbbing, like a heartbeat. It's still you're now dealing with it. It is no longer physical, but it's still doing the same effects it was doing physically to you. There is a pain. There's some uncomfortability, but it's not physical or visceral for you to see. It is now internal. If that keeps going, it becomes then psychological, because then you start.
And here we are not talking about an individual. We are talking about a community. We are talking about a society.
No,
a lot of people.
You know, it's actually called the onion, where there's the individual, then there is the immediate people around, which is family, spouse, children, you know, the nucleus.
Yes.
Then we have another onion peel, where we have then the society, your neighbor, you know, all these things. Then you go then you go to county. Then you go, it becomes global, it becomes country. So the way Kenya behaves with Tanzania and Uganda and is different. That's why we say there's a Kenyan way, right? Yes. Then from there, then it takes now continental. It keeps going. So all these things are interlinked. So you can be individual, but then you then start having collective trauma, where you have collective violence. So you as a group, this is also where ethnicity starts coming in. You as a group, you're subjected to a different type of violence vis-a-vis someone else. Another group is subjected to a different, you know. So then they see, of course, we also talk about perspective. How I see the world is not the way anybody else in this world
see the world.
And I guess if we have that awareness, it will help a lot. How I see the world is not exactly the same way. Even if I had an identical twin, would see it.
The world.
Yes, because there are also this, then you remember there's the mental, then there's the psychological. So maybe upon one day, if you are twins, you asked for water, and both of you asked for water, but your mother gave you water and ignored the other one. What happens? The other one then builds a grudge, goes like, why did you give that one water and me no? Or why did you give that one first and me no? So then again, we borrow this religion we're just talking about, the Cain and Abel kind of syndrome. Right? So there it is. There's some disquiet now forming itself. So is that flow of relationship natural anymore? No. Because this one feels there is some violence that has happened on them because of just that act of sharing water. So if you let it manifest and grow, disruption straight away becomes violence. Choice, fight or flight, or you know. So but if someone noticed that happened before the disruption of the flow, before it overtly came, it may help mitigate the effects and the manifestation of it.
Okay.
So if you are aware that oh, this child is not feeling like it, so you can explain. So this is where when you're aware of this disquiet or this disruption, this is where, this is where then someone who is aware that there are different perspectives to all this can come out and then use tools to manage that kind of conflict. It's also called managing conflict, but really it's just for them to understand what the conflict is about, the perspective, and also even the costs, because conflict has a price. But then, which is then what we call leads to like reconciliation. They're bringing the understanding of it all, and reconciliation is based on 4 pillars of truth, mercy, peace, and justice. Truth. So what's the truth? So the truth, if you look at how these twins behave, the truth in one's eyes was they asked for water and they were not given first. So they are not the preferred one. The truth for the one who received the water.
That's their truth.
That's their truth.
Yes.
The truth for the one who was given the water was, I was the nearest, or I was the most thirstiest, or something.
Yeah.
But the truth of the one giving the water was it's the same cup. I didn't want to wash many cups. Whoever got first.
Or I gave the cup expecting them to share.
Exactly. So once those truths come out is when now all this, then there's also room for then negotiating, talking, and also then there's room for mercy. Yeah. Mercy means what? Mercy is, what is this? Extending grace, forgiving, showing compassion. There's even that saying, forgiveness, if you don't forgive, it's like swallowing poison for yourself, hoping that person. Yeah. Then, of course, we have peace, because that's the ultimate. The ultimate aim is not to have this disruption, but to have a relationship which is flowing again. Because it has been disrupted, right?
Yes.
And then justice is just a commitment of making things right.
So what you're saying is, using this truth, mercy, peace, and justice, what you're saying is that, for example, looking at the cause of the fires we're talking about, we have to get the truth, the core truth, not just, the what do you call it, the tip of the iceberg, but go deeper and know where it came from.
Where did it come from? Ask them in their perspective, because our perspective is not the same.
Yes. Then, out of that and the negotiation, then we'll give mercy to each one involved. Yes.
But remember, they go together.
Concurrently.
Yes. So then there must be justice, restorative justice. There must be justice, restoring the victims.
When we talk about justice in this case, what are we looking at?
So
jailing the culprits?
You use the mechanisms that are available. Now, I haven't really delved into it, but this is very clear. Depending on how a society is, depending on the level of peace or the stability of peace within a society, the restorative justices are usually also very peaceful. Whereas in societies where violence is prone or is living and is throbbing within them,
everyone has their truth.
The justice method or the justice that is usually as violent.
Yeah, and that is why, particularly in Kenya, when we have so many opposing sides, whenever we seek justice, the guilty party comes with their relatives and says, this is our person.
It's agreed, but then also remember, what is the context? If you're all in violence, so what would be the outcome?
Yes, chaos,
violence, chaos and violence.
as
Yet,
anarchy, and so on.
yeah, yet in some societies that exist, as we're talking currently, some societies, their justice and their restorative justice is very different. Where serious crimes, people go into rehabilitation. They are not, it's rehabilitative, where find out where the
not punitive.
Yes, so there's like there's that thing where we call death, death by hanging. What is this thing called?
In the remaining 20 minutes, we
Yes.
can look at because we have been looking at the effects of what is currently happening. But can we look at other areas of the effects? Because one of the effects of this colonialism was what happened during the slave trade or slave trade area. But we tend to think the slave trade was abolished. But right now we know there's a lot of even child trafficking, human trafficking, and people who go out there hoping they are going to get employment, but strange things happen. Maybe they come back in what do you call them? Bugs. What do you call dead bugs?
Or not come at all. Well, this is the thing. It's you see, slavery also is part of a system. So what is feeding slavery? What is empowering? What empowered slavery? What kind of thought was? So it's called ideology. What was it? It is of white supremacist. It is actually, Bell Hooks names it as white patriarchal capitalist system, supremacist system, right? So it's a hierarchy. It's a hierarchical system.
Right? Can you elaborate a bit?
Which is based on race and patriarchy. That's why it's white. So at the top here, the apex is white patriarchy. Let's be specific. White patriarchy. Then at the middle, is who is, we call them, they were, I'll use now the British system, how it was used. It was the Hamitic people. So those were the people who were not black, but they were brown, but they were not white. So they still had some civilization within them. They could read and write. And then there was now the black person. Not black painted, but Sahara, we go, best to say is the sub-Saharan Afro descent. Right? So that is the hierarchy of race. That is the Calabar system that existed in the 1950s before, and it ended in 1960, what? 1 or 60 in Kenya.
At independence?
Yes, the Calabar system. Yes. I'm also sure when it ended. I don't know when they pulled down the signposts of white only toilet, black only toilet.
Yeah.
But that system didn't die. It renamed itself into class.
Okay.
So I'll use an example. Now we have gone right into Kenyan. So now, sorry for anyone else who is not familiar, but we'll get there. So it diverted itself into class, into first class, second class, and third class. Right?
It's interesting that I grew up. My dad worked with the railways, and I remember the coaches, passenger coaches. I think at one time they were whites only. Then
that became first class.
Asian and third class Africans. Yes. Yeah, because I remember seeing the old photos of white Asian and so on. They even Asian toilets. Yeah, but
now,
because as I growing up, I remember my dad used to get free tickets for second class because we were in that class.
Yes, you had proven that you are not black.
Okay. All right.
You had proven that you have something special. Your father had proven that he had something more special that these redeemable souls people, could get. So now, if you can see it yourself, you have that history in you. Right?
Yes.
Your children don't have that history.
They don't have that history.
I don't have that history in me. Right? So then how then do you explain that the system still exists, but it changed its name? So we are first class, second class, third class. Who would you find in first class, predominantly in Kenya Railways as we speak now?
People who have it.
Who are those?
Maybe the whites, the top class guys. Yeah.
You understand? If you look at the demography, if you enter that cabin, and you look around, you will have pockets of people like us. Pockets.
Yes. And in the third class,
the service will be different.
Very different.
Then if you go to second class, then you'll find the middle class, because also it went to classes. So you have the middle.
Yes.
Sisi wale wa hasla kidogo hapa pale, tunataka kwenda Mombasa. To show children at least there's a sea and there's waguze tu mchanga, they come back, right? It's not booked safaris.
No.
Then there's third class, where then you find that there's people cooking, people carry and go.
Doing all sort of stuff.
Exactly.
Because I was letewa.
So do you want to then tell me that system of oppression died upon independence?
Oh, it didn't die. Didn't die.
It renamed itself.
Yeah.
So then what happened? And this is where we then get, I'll take you a little bit. So these ones left, they went to their motherland upon independence, right? And also, because the agreement was when they came with also the second class citizens.
Yes.
Of empire. We were not. And there's this clipping
we are always number 3.
Yes, there is this clipping which I've seen being circulated, where there's a colonialist sitting at the back and talking about Kenya, and he says, Kenyan we whites were the top, number 1. Number 2.5 were the Asians, and number 4 were the natives. They had no rights at all. Absolutely no rights at all.
Yes.
It's a clipping. I can forward it to you. It's a clipping, right? Yes. So with that system, we have established that the system didn't change. It just changed its name. Yeah. So there we go. So we already have a history, and we're negotiating, like you are negotiating with that history. Your children then find the system running and still are trying to negotiate because they see themselves as free. So they're wondering, what is this violence that is holding you down? What is this violence that's holding us as a nation down? What is this? So because of that misunderstanding and that disquiet, and nobody seems to be giving them an answer. Yes. Because they don't have it in histories. Now that you have mentioned that you saw it, how many other people saw it and have never spoken of it?
Or understood what it...
Exactly.
Yes.
So then this is where now we talk about peace, remember, where we start seeing perspectives. So this child doesn't know the history. And you are not saying the child is not...
And because of that history, which she may not understand, therefore she may not understand why the class system.
Why isn't she
there
not
are so
getting
many rich people and so many poor people?
Yes. and maybe probably they're in the poor. So there's that disgruntled. Is it that
Yes.
my parents are not working hard enough or what,
Yes.
And there are many other motivating. So then what happens is then creates a keg in that child
Mm.
that if it's not handled properly,
Mm.
it will blow.
Yeah, and this is quite true because even in I was not there those days, but during our ancestors' time, I don't think there were classes
No.
that we have rich people, middle class people. There weren't at all. And so this is a new concept which we may not understand because it was never ours. Isn't
And
it?
it was imposed upon us.
Yes.
And the people who imposed left the system in place, but left others. They left the Indians to run the show for them and send the money to London.
Mm-hmm.
So we're still oppressed. And so now you're here seeing the Indian running the show. And more Indians come in. Sorry to say it, right? And you're wondering, how are they getting this credit? They are still they are citizens of UK. You try now and try and be a citizen of the British Kingdom or whatever it is. You see how many bottlenecks are in place. So there's that disgruntled happening.
Yeah, of course. And I'm laughing because this is a very interesting topic, and no matter how much time we give it, we will never finish.
No,
so
because it's part of living. So
yes, it's a
we
living
say in the next 10 years, it will be a different topic or different perspective being used, but it's still, so again, it's just letting it out, understanding where the sun really started beating us. And the crow, we should be aware there's the crow on us. We have 2 elephants. We are the grass.
Or even not apart from the crow, there are also the hawks, which come and eat the carcass. Or the carcass are not yet completely dead, but you see that it's coming to eat you up.
Yeah, but that's
Why?
the
Because you had fought, and you fought up, you didn't understand.
You didn't understand.
Yeah.
And then what happens? You leave it for who now? It becomes the benefit for who?
That's a question. So thank you very much, Albina, for this meeting. And thank you for the viewers for being with us. But join us in the next episode where we go deeper and even explore other areas about us as the Africans and how we can get out of the hole. And as I say, when you're in a hole, you stop digging. So apparently we've been doing a lot of digging, and I think it's time we stop digging. But how do we do that? So any last word, Albina, before we close?
Well, again, is the awareness that we all see the world differently. In the housing, this is housing. In the housing we find ourselves in, and therefore it calls for truth, mercy, peace, and justice.
Thank you very much. And as in the coming episode, we are going to explore that. And together, I know one of the others we are going to contribute into that so that we can all be awake properly and start being ourselves the way we were supposed to be. So thank you very much, Albina, and the viewers for being with us. Until next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.